Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining the day 2 of the Marketing Cloud Personalization series. And I thank everyone for joining and showing your interest to learn Marketing Cloud Personalization. And a special thanks to all the speakers involved in making this a reality. So without each and every one of the speakers listed, this bootcamp wouldn't be possible. So this is the schedule for the 15-day series. We have finished the overview session last Tuesday, and today is going to be all about the setup and account administration. And gradually, we're going to deep dive into the advanced concepts. So next day, on Tuesday, the 1st August, we're going to look at the solution overview. And further, we will explore the sitemap. We will get our hands dirty, like we will get into implementation. How do we create the sitemap, data integration, segmentation, and all these topics. So these will be more advanced, including detailed demos as well. So this is the schedule as of now. Any changes, I will let you know ahead of time. And these are the dates that are mentioned as per the Eastern time zone. And the time is every 12 p.m. Eastern. So all the sessions are at 12 p.m. Eastern. So just a little bit about me. I am the leader of the Salesforce Marketer Group Phoenix. I'm also the marketing champion and marketing cloud consultant, 18 times certified, and the founder of MC Learning Camp. If you don't know about MC Learning Camp, so this is all about helping people learn marketing cloud, no matter where they are in the journey, marketing cloud journey, whether they're the beginners or the intermediate level or trying to clear the certifications. This is founded to help people learn marketing cloud, the in and out. So these are my handles, the Twitter, LinkedIn, and the YouTube. So all the sessions that have been conducted before and the upcoming sessions, they will be recorded and will be uploaded to this YouTube channel. You can find it using @MC Learning Camp. And today I also wanted to give a shout out to our rock star, Jacob. Jacob have done a wonderful job yesterday answering the questions in the chat window. And today he will be joining me to do the demo part. And I can't thank Jacob enough for being so flexible and readily accepting my invite and request to share this demo part. Jacob, can you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure thing. Happy to help. Nice to meet everybody. So Jacob Hayes, located just outside Washington, D.C. in the United States. I'm a personalization practice lead here at Silverline, which is a Salesforce consultant. I've been working with the personalization platform since the Thunderhead days at Salesforce, and I used to work in Salesforce and professional services. So when I saw Chris do the presentation the other day, I joined in because Chris and I have worked together in the past as well. So happy to help and look forward to talking to you guys about the platform.
Thanks, Jacob. We're happy to have you. So just before we get started, so I wanted to bring to your notice a couple of things. These sessions will be uploaded to the YouTube channel @MC Learning Camp. And any questions, please post them in the chat window. So please make sure that you limit the questions to the topic that is being discussed in the present session. So as I mentioned, there are many more advanced topics coming up. So we have a lot of content planned and all the details will be discussed in the further sessions. So if you think your question is related to the other sessions, not related to the present session, please hold your questions for that specific day. And if you think you have missed posting your questions on the specific day, we have this Ask Me Anything panel coming up on September 5th. So I have shared the form with you where you can fill out your questions. So we will address those questions on the Ask Me Anything panel. So you don't need to worry if your question is not answered. We will try to cover all the questions as many as possible. And make sure you register to all the sessions. We have 15 sessions. We are in the 2nd session. So make sure you register to the next sessions as well. And remember to fill out the questions for the Ask Me Anything panel. And if you're already part of the Slack channel, the MC Learning Camp, you will see a new channel created for Marketing Cloud Personalization 23. all the updates related to this series especially will be posted to this Slack channel. So make sure that you're also part of this Slack channel. And let's see what we have looked at in the previous session. So Chris has done a wonderful job of giving a high-level overview of what Marketing Cloud personalization is and how it can be used, and different features like segmentation, creating a unified profile, recipes, decisions, and many more that comes into that. So as a summary, Marketing Cloud personalization is all about listening to the customers' interactions. So how they are interacting with the brand, how interested they are, how what kind of products they like, what kind of brands they feel affinity towards to. So all this can be tracked in the personalization, and that can be used by using the algorithms that we create and the machine language algorithm machine learning that we have. We can create the next best actions and the recommendations and the rules depending on that. And using that data, we can provide customers the best experience, like targeted messages to them. So it can be used for several use cases. So the use cases can be for the retail industries. So if it is a product-based company, so it can be about product recommendations. The next best, like co-browse or co-buy. If somebody has bought the same kind of item, those items can be provided under the recommendations. So under the retail, there are many use cases how Marketing Cloud personalization can be used. And for demand generation, for generating the leads and engaging them and further trying to acquisition. And it can be used for the financial services, for the travel, health and life sciences, and various phases. The personalization can be used is during the web, on a website. The website can be personalized so that depending on the user logged in or depending on the interest the user has shown previously, the recommendations or the products that are being displayed on a specific page can be customized. And the open time email is something when we send the email, and depending on the time when the email is being opened, so the content that is being displayed in the email will keep changing, and the type of content can be customized as well. Let's say we have a holiday like previously the Independence Day, July 4th. So that was the time where there were more discounts. And let's say I received an email during that time and I couldn't open at that time. If I go and open the email at this time today, so the offer is no more relevant. So that should not be displayed to me because that's no more relevant. So the content that is being displayed in the email can be customized depending on the time the email is being opened. And triggered campaigns, depending on the events taken on the website, let's say an abandoned cart or item purchased and similar items, we can provide recommendations through these triggered campaigns. And journey builder triggered use cases is we can create segments, and using those segments, we can push the audiences to the journeys. And sales to service cloud use cases are when we can push the data to the sales or the top to the service cloud to create the cases or to take some action or to assign or some actions necessary on the CRM side. I'm going to quickly show the wide range of use cases that Marketing Cloud personalization can serve. So this is the use case library. So I am looking at the help for the Marketing Cloud personalization. So this is a library of all the use cases. So I have discussed a few of them: the retail, demand generation, financial, travel, health, and life sciences. So if you go to each of these, I can go in depth for the retail, the web use cases. So at different phases of the life cycle. So by the onboarding process or during the discover or during the conversion. So we can create personalized experiences using different use cases. So Einstein recipes, add to cart recommendation. So, or the cart abandonment. When a cart is abandoned, so that some event can be triggered in the personalization, and some messages can be sent or emails can be sent accordingly. I also have another use case example for the demand generation. So for the demand generation, if somebody signed up, but then they did not complete the sign up process and they exited. So when you click on these individual links, you can see all the information that is available on that specific use case. So this set of use cases, this library gives us the idea of how personalization can be used. So this is only specific to the demand generation web use cases. There are many other use cases for the open time or the triggered campaign or the journey builder or the CRM integration. So this gives you an idea of how you can use it. And also when you are implementing it, this has all the information, the target audience or the challenge or the solution approach and the campaigns that we can configure and all the information that you can get started with. So there is wealth of information, and thanks to Salesforce documentation team who have put together this wonderful information here. So if you want to get an idea of where we can use the personalization and in what ways, what phases, so this is a good resource here. I have this linked here as well. So when I share the slide deck, you can go and browse all these use cases. Before we go further, I wanted to share with you all the places where you can access the information related to the personalization. So can you share, or do you know what personalization was previously known as? You can post that in the chat window. So what is the former name for? Yes, that's right, Interaction Studio. And Interaction Studio was once acquired and renamed. So do you know the name? Yes, Evergage, that's right. So you can see some references to the Evergage and to the Interaction Studio at some places, but that is all the personalization. So Trailhead is the first place. So Trailhead has a few modules that are helpful. So if you're starting, if you're a beginner, you can get started with this information because it has a detailed information, all the relevant information, not just personalization, but it also talks about the real-time interaction management or the customer interactions. So there are some relevant modules. You can check this trail and the Salesforce help. So the help page that I have showed here. So this is the help page where there is a lot of information about the Marketing Cloud personalization. So all the sessions that we will be discussing in the upcoming sessions as well. So you can find references to these help documents, even though you do not have access to the partner learning camp or any of the resources that I list here. So help is easily accessible to everyone. So you can go and check all the information here. And there is one more, the eCampus. It has a lot of information for the personalization to get started, for the getting started, or how to navigate the platform, or how to create the accounts, or development of the Marketing Cloud personalization, the developer aspects as well. Everything is covered in detail. So I have these links listed, and in the slide deck, I will be sharing it shortly after the session. You can access this from the slide deck. And the partner learning camp. If you are working for a partner org, you can access the partner learning camp, and there is a course for the Marketing Cloud personalization, which has all the sessions. So all the sessions that we have listed here. So there are some detailed modules for each of these sessions as well. So that's a great resource. If you have access to it, don't miss to utilize that. And also, as Chris mentioned yesterday, there is an accredited professional certification as well. So if you're done with learning and if you want to do that credential, so you can do that from the partner learning camp itself. And the developer docs, so this has information more related to the developer aspects, the APIs. So when we are deploying the Web SDK, I can show that quickly. So here it has all the information related to the integration, the SDK, and the APIs listed here. So this is also a great resource. You can check these links and bookmark these. So these will be handy. So when we are getting started, there are a few considerations before we implement how do we do the discovery, and what are the questions, what type of questions that we should be asking, what is the information that we need to know prior. So for the benefit of time, and also considering that not everybody will be doing the implementation at this point of time, this series is more focused to help you learn Marketing Cloud personalization. So when you are ready for the implementation, so this are the references included here. You can go and check this out. So this is the implementation checklist, and there is a good module on the implementation aspects, how to get started, what kind of discovery questions to ask, so what kind of stakeholders to include. So there is a good information available there. So you can check it here. And so when we decide to go with the Marketing Cloud personalization, there are two types of editions available, the Growth Edition and the Premium. So Growth Edition, there are a limited set of features available. That will be website and email personalization, segmentation, ABN testing, and product and content recommendations. The Premium comes with more limits. Instead of the 100,000 monthly unique visitors and the named individual profiles, it has more limits of 500K monthly unique visitors and 500K named individual profiles. And on top of the key features provided in the Growth Edition, Premium Edition has more as features like the CRM integration or the server-side API responses or the mobile app personalization and push. And these limits can be increased by using top-up. In blocks of 100K, you can purchase more monthly unique visitors and the named individual profiles. And there are some limitations of how we use the data and how do we do the integrations. So we are providing the link here. So you can check all the limitations here, the data and the object limits and the integration limits, everything is listed here. So you can check under this help page. So this is not the information that you would need on a day-to-day basis, but just for the reference, if you need to clarify, you can just check here. So yesterday there was also a discussion about how we're going to use the data, and is it appropriate to collect a lot of tracking data on a user. So it is very important that whatever data that is being collected, it is being put to good use, and also for the purpose that we are collecting the data. And these days, consumers are also concerned. So as I know that whatever website I'm browsing, I'm also concerned that my interest or my information is being collected by somebody whom I don't know. Same way, all the consumers are concerned about the financial and identity related risks. And for also the data being collected by one brand may be shared by different brands, maybe sometimes by the parent brand. Let's say I give my information on the Facebook, that will be shared on the WhatsApp or the Instagram. But it's also a concern that the data is being collected and used in an unanticipated way. And there are also concerns that the data being used, data being collected is being used for a purpose that is not relevant. So if I do a one-time search or I purchase a product to give it as a gift, but that is just one-time purchase, and I don't want my further recommendations to be based on that specific product. So it's also a concern that the products that are not relevant are also being shown, or the personalization experience provided are not that relevant. And whatever the data that is being collected, that also not being appropriately used. So those are some of the concerns that I may have, or you may have, or all the other consumers may have. So keeping those in view, some best practices are recommended. So these are use and collect information only that is required. So if we don't need the first name and the last name, we only need the birth date or the demographic location, then confine the data collection only to the data that is required. Let's say I'm going to do a birthday campaign on the consumer's birthday. I'm going to send some offer. I wouldn't need the year. I can just collect the date and the month. So I can be specific with what I require and not collect all the information that may not be needed. And whenever we're collecting the data, we have to be transparent and on how we're going to use that data. And also when we are sending communications, transparent about how the cadence of the communications are going to be. And consumers can have control and clarity. So whenever, as a consumer, if I want to know what kind of data is being collected on my profile, I can request the company. So the company has the responsibility to honor my request and provide the information that is collected on my profile. And also I have the right to forget. So if I request that my information need to be erased from a particular company, so that needs to be honored as well. And whenever we're collecting the data, make sure that the information is clear to the consumer, why the data is collected and how it can be used for their benefit. So if we collect information about their interest or to the demographic, so we can help them understand that we can provide them with product recommendations that are more relevant to their interest or to their area location. And whenever we're collecting some sensitive data, we have to make sure that we're not sharing it or we are treating it wisely, and make sure that we follow the right of least privilege. Only give access to the people who truly need it. So not to everybody. So if, let's say, we have the data collected, make sure that only rightful users have access to that data. And when we are sharing information with the third-party partners, make sure that what kind of information is shared and whether the information is appropriate or not. And how the dates and times are used in personalization. So all the dates are stored in the UTC format. And when we look at the timestamps, it will be shown in the local time zone. And on the segments and the customer profile and campaigns, we can customize it to the specific date and time range. So whatever that we want to have it displayed, we can change it on the segments, the unified customer profile that is being created and the campaigns. We can have our local time range or we can customize the time range that is being displayed. But internally, the times will be stored, date and time will be stored in the UTC format. I'm pausing here to see if there are any questions. And just like the way we can check the status, if something is not working or a site is down, we can check the status for the Salesforce and the Marketing Cloud. The same way on the Trust site, we can go and check the status of the personalization. So when we go to the trust.salesforce.com, we will see the Marketing Cloud personalization listed. So underneath, we can check by the region and also by the servers. So to which server the instance belongs to, I'm going to show that in the next few minutes. So depending on the instance where it is located, we can see this listed in the URL. So we can find that out and use it to know the status. So we'll check this region and underneath we'll check the kind of server it is on. So those are the basic things to get started. And before we dive deep into this, there are a few terms that we need to be aware of. So you may be hearing a lot yesterday and today about different terms that are totally new. Don't be overwhelmed. So these are all like we are using it all at once without even going into the next sessions in detail. So these will be discussed in detail in the sessions as they are relevant. So I'm just providing an overview of what these are. We will be seeing at these in detail in the next sessions. So the data set, just like the way that we have the business units in the Marketing Cloud, business units can be used to enforce account separation and to allow for enhanced security measures. The same way in the Marketing Cloud personalization, we use data sets that is used to control access to the data. And depending on the geography, the brand, or even to differentiate the test data and the production data, we can create different data sets. And also, just like the way in Marketing Cloud, we provide different roles for the business units. The same way, for each data set, we can create, we can assign roles for each user. So for a user to access a data set, they need to be given access to that specific data set. So one common example where these data sets are used or for the testing purposes as well. So in Marketing Cloud, business units is like an additional purchase, but in the personalization, the data set is easy to create and grant access to. Salesforce Interactions SDK Launcher, we will see this in detail in the next week session, sitemap session. This is basically a Chrome extension that can be used to add personalization features on the website. The Unified Customer Profile, you may already know about this. It's collecting the data that is available, all the data across all the channel about a specific consumer, specific user, and integrating that user to create a unified profile. So all the information that is available on that specific user can be created as a single unified customer profile. Open time email personalization. So the personalization content and recommendations can be provided in the email depending on the time the email is being opened. Real-time interaction management. It is capturing all the interactions by the consumer in the real time and also providing the recommendation or the personalization in the real time. So in the personalization, it can all happen within 30 milliseconds. So you might have heard Chris discuss this. So all the process from listening to the act phase, like providing the recommendation, it can all happen within 30 milliseconds. The JavaScript beacon, it is a code snippet that is added to the website. So it is like a first-party cookie that listens to the visitor's actions. So whatever action that a visitor is taking, so it tracks and it collects all the information. If they provide the information, if they fill in any form or provide the email, that will be tracked. And also, even if they are anonymous, if they haven't provided any information, for the anonymous visitors as well, some information like the pages that they have viewed or the time they have spent or the geolocation or the device ID, and some information can be collected on them as well. All this information can be collected using the JavaScript beacon and it will be tracked to the personalization. The site mapping is a framework that is a integration layer, configuration-driven integration layer that is deployed and executes within the beacon. So we have seen the beacon, so it executes within the beacon, and it is used, developed to integrate with a specific site using APIs. So that is used to map the objects into the personalization through event capture. So whatever the events that happen on the website, that can be tracked back to the personalization. Web SDK, it places a first-party cookie for all visitors, and it can collect all the implicit and explicit information and also the behavioral data for both anonymous and known visitors. And similar to the Web SDK, there is a mobile SDK that is used to track the behaviors and actions on iOS and Android mobile app users. So it can be used to deliver personalized experiences inside the app or another channel in real time. So these are a lot to remember, but this is just for your reference. Just keep them in mind. So when we go over them in detail in the next sessions, you can get to see how you can configure and what they really are. But this is just for your primary basic understanding of what these are. So this is a catalog. It is a collection of all the items. So if it is a retail brand, it will consist of the product, or if it is a daily newsletter, it will consist of the content, or some creatives that can be personalized. So it's a collection of all the data, the related items. It can have the metadata associated with them as well. So it can have the attributes and the dimensions. So the items can be the blogs, resources, or product solution. And in some cases, it can be the stores, branches, and other items as well. And as per the dimensions, it's like a metadata describing about the item. So it could be the color or the size, and the attributes are the characteristics, the name, URL, or the published date, and other features. So taking the example of a sample catalog for a retail company. So the items can be the products and the promotions, the stores, and the blogs. And the categories can be the dimensions. So what kind of category? The jackets, or the boys, or the footwear, or the accessories, and the features. And gender is another dimension. Colors are the dimensions. So when we create the catalog, we define all these so we can track them again in the personalization. And for a financial services industry, these are the different types of items and the dimensions. The products, the branches, calculators, promotions, these can be the item. And the dimensions can be the categories. What kind of category does it fall into? The banking, or the insurance, or the investing, or the banking class, personal, or the business. The blocks, blocks is the item, the keywords, home buying, or the insurance, or the banking, what are the interest rates, and all these can be the dimensions. And behavioral events are the events that are tracked on the user depending on their behavior, like how they're browsing the page, or what their activity has been, what amount of time they have been spending. So all this information can be tracked, and that can be used for triggering the campaigns. So if they seem to be interested in a specific product, we can send them some product recommendations or some discount coupons on that specific product, or some similar items. It can be used for cross-channel campaigning as well. And it can be used for segmentation, and then pushing them into the journeys, or sending the data to the CRM. It can be used for reporting, and many more. User attributes, we will see user attributes in detail in the next session, but just to give a high-level overview. So this is the information that is attached to, it can be the identity attributes or any other attributes, the information that is being collected on a profile. They are known or unknown. These are the type of information that can be collected. So if on the email address, the metadata can be the origin, where the information is coming from. Is this classified as sensitive, or it is PII information, or non-sensitive, that can be collected? And where this provider, who is where it is coming from, the gear ID, and the updated time as well. This is the metadata that will be stored. And the attributes can be of different types: the string, number, date, boolean, object. And this in attributes that are being collected, the data that is being collected, can be used for segmentation. So if we see that they are at a specific life cycle, or the last purchase was some item, we can segment all those users based on that. And we can target those customers in the journeys or some targeted campaigns, and in decisioning as well. So this information, as and when the user browses a website or exhibits some behavior, we collect the information and save it under the profile, and we can use it later for the targeting purposes. So we'll now go into the account settings. Okay. Any questions? We can take them at the end of the session. I have a few more slides to cover. So just be assured that we're going to cover all the questions. If time do not permit today, we can cover the questions in the Slack channel. And again, in the Ask Me Anything panel as well, be sure to fill that out. So logging into the Marketing Cloud personalization is simple. So if you already work in the Marketing Cloud instance, so personalization sits in the Marketing Cloud instance itself. You don't need to go to another location. Just in the Marketing Cloud, you will, in the navigation menu, you will see the personalization. And when we go to the personalization, you will see the dashboard, the home page with all the relevant information. And this is the left pane where it has the different navigation menu items. So it lists all the reports. There are multiple number of reports which can be customized. So that can be checked under this tab. And this is all categorized by the functional area, the channels and campaigns, the audiences, the catalog, machine learning, gears, and the other settings and security. So under channels and campaigns, we can check the web, the server side, triggered, mobile, email, third party. This is where we can get to see the beacon, we can configure some of these under these channels and campaigns. I will leave some time for Jacob to go over these in detail. So for the audiences, we can create the user segments and the account segments. Catalog, this is where we create all the catalog items, the dimensions that we have discussed. The and surveys is available, I think, is only for the premium editions. So we can create surveys. And machine learning, this is where, this is also an important portion here. This is where we create the Einstein recipes. We will see all these things in the next 2 weeks. So this is something important. So machine learning, we can check all this here. And the gears and settings. Settings is the place where we check the user configuration, security and settings. So we will get into that in the next few slides. So these are basically divided into few functional areas like channels and campaigns, audiences, catalog, machine learning, gears, and this security and settings. The data sets. So whenever we log in, the default will be the engage. So we can switch to another data set if it is already present. We can switch to another data set by clicking on the down arrow, and it will give a drop-down list of all the data sets that are available. And we can navigate to that specific data set. So on the data sets, we can add a data set, clone a data set, and export events from a data set. So on a specific data set, there may be multiple events that happen. So if you want to export all those events out externally, you can export it in the data set. On the data set list itself, there on the right side, there will be an option to clone and export. And data sets, as I mentioned before, that can be used in some cases for the testing environment or the production, and for some use cases can be used to separate different business units as per the geography or the brand or some other criteria. And it's also used to track websites separately from the application. The API tokens, if you are aware of the Marketing Cloud installed packages, so when we create the installed packages, it's a way to communicate with the data inside the Marketing Cloud. The same way in the personalization, if you want to access the data inside the personalization, we can create the API tokens, and using those tokens, we can create and update users and receive behavioral data from the offline systems. And using that API, we can get the historical transactional data or update any of the information that is present inside the personalization. The audit log is place where we can check all the log information. So it is divided by the event type. So we have a list of events here. So by the event type, we can browse and check the log for that. So right now I'm looking at the authentication. So whenever user logs in or creates some users or does some segmentation, everything will be recorded under this audit log. So there are a different set of permissions available. So whenever somebody wants to log into the Marketing Cloud, it's a two-step process. So the first, a Marketing Cloud administrator on the Marketing Cloud end need to create the user and then give them access to the personalization. So make them under the permissions, give them access to the personalization as the user or as the admin. So depending on that, the user will be able to access the data sets. If it is an admin permission, they will be able to access all the data sets. If it is a user, they can only log in but cannot access any of the data steps. So the first step is creating the user in the Marketing Cloud and granting them permission. And the second step is the user has to go back and log in and access the personalization that creates the user in the personalization. So maybe we will show that in the demo part, how that is done. So the user will be created and then the access to the data set needs to be granted at that point of time. So there are some default user roles that are available: the campaign approver, the campaign author, editor with export, and viewer. So when we create the user and we can give access to the data set and also the role for each data set, what kind of role we want to grant. So it can be different for each data set. And these are the different type of permissions that are available. So depending on the functional area, the channels, on the channels, you can create the campaigns or templates or item templates. So this is high level. I'm gonna quickly go through this. So when you create, so these are the granular level of access permissions that we create. So when you want to let the user create the segments or only view, you will grant access to this set of permissions here. So when somebody is granted an administrator permissions, they will be able to access all the data sets and all the data that is present. Jacob, I want to save some time and give you some time for the demo part. You want to take it over?
Yeah, sure thing.
Okay, I'm going to stop the screen share.
If you hear fun noise in the background, my 2.5-year-old's deciding to yell and run around. It's always fun. So, hi, everybody. I'll do my best to show as much as we can in like 10 minutes. Feel free to ask any questions in the chat. We'll get to it. I'll leave a few minutes to answer any questions as well. So as you guys were talking about from an account administration perspective and getting into the personalization platform, when you're starting to do that linkage or the handshake between a user within the Marketing Cloud instance into the personalization instance, what you would be doing is creating that net new user and coming into, hopefully you guys know, users, you'll be going into a specific person, looking at the roles and starting to enable a permission for personalization. And so for me as an individual in my own demo account here, I have administrative access. So that access gives me everything. But once this is completed, saved, and completed, the individual who you're completing it for will be able to log back into Marketing Cloud. They will see the icon removed away from personalization, that they now have access to it, and they'll be able to click into personalization and start going into the specific data sets that they need to look at. From here, there's a couple of other items that we've covered so far on the slide decks. So I want to show a couple. Most of the time that we're going to spend here is a little bit of account administration. So let's go to security. And we talked about roles and roles definitions. So that's where you find it, security, manage roles definitions, and you get specific roles out of the box within the platform, just like you have within Marketing Cloud, if you guys are familiar. You can add specific roles like we were showing on the slide deck to, again, provision down to the more granular level of who gets to see what, depending on their role within the organization. And to the point where we were saying, once that handshake is completed, you'd show here. There's a lot of folks here. In my own instance here at Silverline, but how it would look if it was looking at myself is I would come through, I would have that account administrator role, and then you'd be able either to provide additional roles to them within the personalization platform, or continue with the account administrator roles. So hopefully that helps so far with the users and the roles. I think let's go back to one other piece that was shown is there was API tokens. So API tokens are created again within the security setting within the platform, and you're able to create these tokens. Once you create the tokens, you put in your permissions and your specific items, and you'll get a CSV with your client secret and other code that you will then utilize. One of the big reasons why this is utilized is the integration and connection point into Salesforce, Sales or Service Cloud, or the core instances that your client or you guys might be working with. And so this is how we create this handshakes and do the server-side integrations. You'll cover that more with others later on in these sessions, but that's a starting point. And I'm going quick, so feel free to just keep asking questions and we'll go from there. The other items is you are allowed audit logging within the platform. It's not as extensive if you're familiar with Salesforce Core, audit loggings, or if you're familiar with some of the features that we have within Marketing Cloud. But we are able to see specific what has been done with API tokens, who is authenticated, etc. So this does give you at least a starting point to say what has been done within the platform. And hopefully there were no mistakes made, but if there were, we could see and potentially see what has occurred. Now let's go back to settings, and then we'll go all the way and start at the top, and I'll do some rough sort of components. At a settings side, I think there's a couple areas that you guys should all know about when you're working with the platform. So from a general setup perspective, you see these main 5 columns. Documentation does a pretty decent job of explaining these. I think the biggest ones to call out here before we go into advanced options is as you're building out your data sets within the platform, you will be determining types. So is this going to be the data set type for a production instance? Is it going to be our QA environment? It's going to be staging, etc. Most of what we like to do from a personalization perspective is make sure that we're building off of a production website, knowing that there's probably the next lowest environment from a client's perspective is staging. And we like to have those two layered in a greenfield implementation as 2 data sets within the platform. And so we're building off of what our staging environment would look like, but also building off of what production looks like. And then we're able to do specific pieces of moving items from a staging environment or staging data set into a production data set. Tracking accounts, that's specifically for the B2B function within the platform. Your client does need to purchase B2B detect and other components within their SKUs that we had talked about earlier. And so feel free to reach out, and there's some documentation on this front. The rest of these they come out of the box. And so the biggest recommendation I can have as we go into advanced options and the rest of these is if it's out of the box checked, you should have a good reason of why you're unchecking it. And if you don't do it. I know that sounds kind of funny for some people, but there is some documentation behind it. And if you guys are working with a specific partner, ask them, discuss why should we be setting the default customer overview? Why should we be keeping enabled dynamic content, etc. We just won't have enough time to go through each one, but take some time when you get into an account to learn from it. I'll call out a couple areas. So first, the setting of the default customer overview screen type is something that's critical. It's some pieces that are just not known to a lot of individuals outside of folks who have done implementations. By selecting either e-commerce, demand gen, and SaaS, you're changing the overall look and feel of a user's unified profile within the platform. And so the affinity wheel itself is populated based off of e-commerce and demand gen. SaaS itself does not have an affinity wheel. And if you want to learn a little bit more details about this, I can provide a link in the chat where how you customize the affinity wheel and what works for demand gen and e-commerce. So again, just a critical component to think through as you guys are working into the platform and starting to learn a little bit more about it. Another critical area that you guys should keep in mind is this section here where we're starting to identify the specific identity attributes. Make sure as you're working with your customer, your client, to discuss what is our identity types that we should be utilizing to make that merge event occur from that anonymous individual to the known individual. We have to mirror what that looks like from the web SDK, the mobile app, if that's involved in your scope of your project, and the server side. You can see in this specific demo instance that I have, it's email address. but that could be either a GUID or a UUID that's conformed and structured based off of any other conversations you're having. That can be the Salesforce Marketing Cloud contact key, which is a one-to-one. It's not a one-to-one to a subscriber key, but you guys, if you know Marketing Cloud, it's a subscriber key and the contact key. We're able to make that, again, handshake and understanding within the instance, within their context table. You're also able to use, again, we don't recommend Profile ID, but you can use Profile ID as well. I've seen instances where we're passing through variables into the sitemap itself based off of maybe an email campaign that's coming over from Marketing Cloud. In the UTM parameters, we capture either the email address or, well, we wouldn't capture the email address, but good practice. We would be capturing the Marketing Cloud contact key. All right, those are kind of the big highlights areas. Read through this section if you guys have an instance available to you. There's a lot of key critical pieces. Let's go back up and let's start with dashboard. And then I'm going to pause right after this to answer any questions since I see we're right at about time. So again, when you log in to personalization, you land on the dashboard section. There's a lot of details on this left-hand navigation side that you're going to go through in the next, I think, 13 or so sessions. I think some of the biggest pieces to call out in at least the reporting section for folks is natively within the platform, and I don't have a ton of data in this instance, we're capturing behavior and we're capturing technology. So this is natively what the SDK is doing as we put it on their website based off of people browsing and moving through. So you're going to understand who is new, who is existing. You're going to be able to understand the specific technology they're coming from, the specific operating system, platform, etc. A lot of this is really critical to explain to a potential customer and client to say, as soon as we start getting that sitemap rolling and running onto the platform, you're going to have a lot of interesting reporting data that can help them understand what their customer funnel looks like from their web properties, as long as we have the SDK on those. As we had talked about before, there's a lot of other pieces here. Obviously, I'm going to talk about web and then I'll be done. I keep saying that, but let me run through it. So in the web SDK section, in the web campaigns section, you'll see the web campaigns, your templates, editors. I want to cover web setup since that's really what we're here about is account config. When you get into the JavaScript integration, there is two pieces that's synchronous versus asynchronous. Don't think you'll be able to cover it all today. The recommendation as best practice is using synchronous. There will be potential clients that you work with or customers that you work with where asynchronous would be best. But this is also a key area where you will find your script type for your beacon, so that if you needed to, if you were jumping onto Cumulus as an example, which jumping around, you know what happens when you jump around demos, you could force your URL SDK to start mirroring your data set within the personalization platform. Looking at time, I think I'll call it there. There's a couple of other areas that we should probably talk about, but I'm going to leave a couple of minutes for questions. Is that okay? Should I keep going?
That's fine, Jacob. Please go ahead. Okay,
keep going. Okay. So the other couple of components within the web section is the web SDK settings. This is a last resort. So just something to keep in the back of your mind. If you're working in the implementation, you see something gone wrong after you go live, you can disable the beacon. So when you disable the beacon, all that happens is all campaign and traffic stops. So you could make hot fixes. And again, this is only in the last resort that you would need to use this, but you can do, I've had to do this with a client before where they pushed major changes onto their website. It broke certain consent features and functionality, and we had to basically disable and restart. So there is a setting within web where you can look at those information. When you actually configure your sitemap, again, you're configuring your sitemap within the actual SDK and the Google Chrome extension, but you can see the sitemap within the platform as well. Again, this is only to see if you wanted to look at the code and run through items. You'll go over that in the section later on in this sessions as well. Last two pieces is you can establish site-wide CSS. It's a hard word to say sometimes. I have yet to see a lot of companies use this, but you can. You could determine CSS that would be utilized throughout your whole sitemap. And then finally, since I know we're at time, looking at your web configuration, this is where you will be doing your allowing of your domains. We have to allow and we have to do IP. Whitelisting as well to make sure that pieces are firing correctly. So this is where you'd have your allowed domains. You could launch your visual editor and you can see any of your site configuration history. I think that's probably all we get to have today from a demo perspective. Hopefully that helps. I'll stop sharing now.
Thanks much, Jacob. So that is really helpful to have the live instance with some valuable data. So I'm checking here for the questions. I remember there was a question if we can customize the dashboard. I don't think so, right?
That main dashboard, when you log in, cannot be customized.
Yeah. Can we run these scripts through GTM?
Yes, you can run the, you can run the SDK through Google Tag Manager, a Telium data layer, a Telium tag management platform. This happens and this occurs. It does add a little bit of complexity, but it's pieces that we've done in the past when we were at ProServe at Salesforce.
Awesome. I'm looking for more questions, Jack. So I think they are already answered.
JB, there is one that asks, what are the consumables for the platform?
We get a little bit more context on consumables.
Right. Yeah.
That's by Manpreet.
Yeah. What do you mean by consumables? Are those the input data or?
That was a question from Manpreet.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we get a little bit more details, we could potentially help. I'm seeing profiles and other pieces. Feel free to come off mute and ask a little bit more details there.
Yeah, I'm gonna turn on the option to unmute, so you can unmute and share more details.
Oh, I see a
Tapati
response.
also had a question.
I see Manpreet just mentioned for Marketing Cloud, we consume contacts. So the number of contacts along with the SDK we purchase.
Yep.
Manpreet, if you can unmute and clarify your query.
If he doesn't, I think I know where he's going with it. So what we were talking about a little bit earlier in the presentation. So contacts are the specific consumables that you're going to be charged with within Marketing Cloud itself by Salesforce. When we are talking about personalization, we're looking at unified profiles or named profiles. We're also looking at specific visitors on a monthly basis to your website. There's some calculations that are done on the Salesforce side. I will see if I have a link somewhere and I'll provide it, and you guys can take a look.
I think on the deck itself, at the beginning of the presentation, it was mentioned in numbers, in multiples of 100K, the named profile and unique customer. JB was actually explaining that slide.
Yep, perfect.
One query I am having regarding the date format you were explaining earlier. So I am just looking for, like, when we are integrated with other CRM platforms and or suppose say we are getting data set which we load on personalization, we have certain date format. So other instances or platforms may be using the same format that UTC or the local date format they are using. But in personalization, how they are getting treated means in backend. For me, particularly in Marketing Cloud, I have faced this issue. The data getting stored in Marketing Cloud is in UTC, EST time zone, but CST time zone. But when I'm displaying the data in UI, it is in my local time zone, say India time zone. So the data when coming from other platforms, those data sometimes give us wrong data conversion. So the other platforms are using IST, which is getting treated within Marketing Cloud as a CST time zone, and the date conversion happens. So are there any specific issue within personalization which we can address?
If I'm understanding the question correctly, in the UI itself, you're going to be seeing it in the local time. I don't think there's much you can do on that front. you're going to have to do conversions from the data that's flowing within to the personalization platform, whether that's maybe via an ETL, and that's maybe user data from Marketing Cloud. You can set time structures. And so I would double check, and there's documentation links on how data should be acceptable in a specific range for each ETL. And then from within a sitemap perspective, that varies by client to client. To your point, each client may have a different time zone structure, especially within Europe and, you know, AMER versus an APAC as well. And so probably not the best answer for you. I think the link that I shared within the actual chat will get you as a starting point, and then we can have some further discussions. Maybe you guys ask in that AMA panel a little bit later to Matthew and others.
I face this issue when the data flowing in within to Marketing Cloud, that data is coming with IST as the time zone set in their platform. But in Marketing Cloud, it is getting treated as a CST time. So therefore, by default, the system converts it to local time and shows a different date. Mainly when it is before GMT and after GMT, the plus and minus, that's where the error happens.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good question to ask the AMA panel. I don't know if there's any more details I can potentially provide at this moment. Sorry.
No, fine. Just if you can just let me know if there are any such issues or how to address.
Definitely, Tapti. No, I can provide more information on the Slack channel after this as well, if I find
Sure.
anything. Thank you, Jacob, for providing the details on that. And we, as Jacob mentioned, we also have the chance to discuss this on the Ask Me Anything panel. If you think this answer doesn't, it's not something that you're looking for, we can put that question on the Ask Me Anything panel. Thank you very much, Jacob, for your patience and being so flexible. I think we can we can wrap this up. So, any questions? Anyone have any other questions? Please post them on the Slack channel. If we can address them, we will do that on the Slack channel. If not, so we can post them on the form for the Ask Me Anything panel. I thank everyone for your patience and for your interest to learn. So I do have 2 certification vouchers to give today, and thanks to Jacob for giving up his voucher. So please send me an email to my CGL ID. I'm going to post that in the chat window. So the time limit is the next 5 minutes, and tell me why do you need the voucher? So I would be happy to give the voucher to the person who needs it most. So tell me why you need the voucher, how it can help you. And the first 2 members, or the members who come up with the real valid reason, so I'll share the vouchers with them. So the time limit is the next 5 minutes. So please put that in the email. You don't need to put that in the chat. And once again, thank you, Jacob. Thank you, Dee, and thanks everyone. And we hope to see you in the next session. And next session, what we'll do is we will set the time to 90 minutes. So just in case we go over, just wanted to make sure that we cover everything in detail. Block 90 minutes of your time. I'm going to update that on the invite as well. So if we go over, we still have time to cover all the topics in detail. Thank you once again. See you next week. Bye.